Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kristen. I'm a military spouse living in Denver, Colorado with my family, which includes my husband and our 2 fur babies. And this is my little corner of the internet where I share with you how knitting and other fiber crafts have woven into my life. So today's video is one of my podcast episodes, should be episode 72, and this is my October 2024 recap, since I have moved to doing these more on a monthly basis. So I have so much to show you today. I think I have a total of 5 finished objects and a ton of new whips to show you. So I'm very excited to dive into today's episode. But before we do that, I just want to do a little bit of the admin here at the beginning. So if you'd like to follow me, I'm DoSo Knits here on YouTube. I'm DoSo Knits on Instagram and Ravelry. And then down in the show notes, I link to my project pages. I have chapters so that you can skip around. And then on my Ravelry project pages, I have links on the specific projects to the videos where I talk about those projects. So if you ever want like a video history of the things I'm working on, those are on the Ravelry pages, but also in the show notes you can skip around. So I'm recording here in Denver today. Technically I live in Aurora, but it's a suburb of Denver. We've had so much snow this week. It has literally been snowing since Wednesday. I'm recording on a Saturday, and we went outside recently to just try to get some photos done, and I think we have at least like 8 inches of snow, if not a little bit more. Some of it melted and then there's been more, but it's a very snowy day, so hopefully it's not too bright. Also, I have my window slightly open because when I record it gets really hot in this room, so I have a slight window open. I don't think there's going to be too many kids playing outside, but just in case you hear anything in the background, it might be kids playing outside in the snow. And before we dive into the nitty-gritty, I want to tell you about what I'm wearing today. So this is my 4 Keeps cardigan, which is a pattern by Samantha Guerin. I test knit this for her, and I just looked at my Ravelry project page trying to remember some of the details, and I finished this 2 years ago. I finished this in September of 2022, and it's November of 2024, and my brain can like not comprehend that it has been 2 years since I knit this. It is one of my go-to cardigans. I love to throw it on. I did knit it a bit oversized than what's written in the pattern. I knit it a little longer and it's a little bit bigger, but it has this cable detail down the front and then like a brioche kind of texture looking thing, but it's all done with slip stitches, so no brioche. It's really squishy, it's really lovely. I have like a balloonish sleeve at the bottom just because after the decreases I wanted a little bit of a tighter cuff. And then I knit it in Wool of the Andes, non-superwash. The color was Brass Heather. And yeah, I have the size 5 and it's about a 50-inch bust, so it's a little oversized, but I love this cardigan. It is one of my go-tos. It's knit seamlessly, no seaming. Has this really pretty like finished ribbed edge with the cable down the front as well. It's very cozy. I wore it to work this week and I got a ton of compliments on it. So this is definitely something I would knit again. I need to circle back to it. But it is a drop shoulder, so it's like super easy to make, but one of my go-to cardigans. And I can't believe I've had it for 2 years. With that, that's all the admin I have here at the beginning, so I hope you have something cozy to drink and you're ready to settle in, because I have a feeling this is going to be a chatty and a lengthy episode, considering I have as many projects as I do. I'm currently finishing a cup of coffee in my newest Staircase ceramics mug. This is someone I follow on Instagram. She posted these mugs. They're all handmade. I have many of her mugs, but I love this little ghost. And I know it's after Halloween, but I'll be using him all the time because I love him and he's so cute. So, drinking some coffee. I hope you have something cozy to drink, and we'll just move right into the finished objects I have to share with you. Okay, so the first finished object I have to show you was a work in progress from last time, and I'm excited that it's done. And this is an Oslo Hat by Petite Knit that I knit for my husband Shane. And I do want to say there might be a few more cuts or like stops than normal because I was supposed to record this video last weekend and then I caught a cold and I'm still slightly recovering from it. So to like edit out sneezes or coughs, because I don't want you to have to listen to that, there might be some additional cuts. Just know that that's probably what that is. But I finished this Oslo hat for my husband Shane, and this is what it looks like. So I knit this in Thought to Thread Ritual DK in the colorway Novel Pages, and there's only a few modifications that I made. So I knit Shane the women's size, so fits him really, really well. I think that's just more like an average adult size hat. I did shorten the brim a little bit, so it's only like a 2.5 inch brim. So it was a 5-inch brim total before folding up. And then I did increase this a little bit because I shortened the brim, but otherwise I followed it exactly. I used 90 grams of the DK, so it was about 221 yards. But yeah, I really like it. This yarn was amazing to work on. It was so smooth, didn't split. It's so, I want to say squishy, but it was just a joy to knit with. It just had such a lovely tooth. It was a non-superwash merino and it feels really lovely. And honestly, like having my hand in the bottom is making it very warm. And then we picked up this yarn when we went to Flock in Seattle. Tyler in his booth, who is the owner of Thought to Thread, had an Oslo hat, I think in this color, on one of the mannequin stands. So Shane was like, I want that hat and I want that color. So that's what we picked out. I knitted up pretty quickly. And then on Tyler's hat, he had one of these leather tags. And we asked, you know, do you have any? And he didn't. It was something he had ordered from Etsy. It had his logo on it. So then when Shane and I went to Wisconsin Sheep and Wool, we found a vendor that had little tags, and this is the one Shane picked out. So it's a little dragon with a yarn hoard, and it says mine. And so these tags are from Kaleidoscope Fibers. They had so many of them, and I just looked at their website to see they are available online. They have tons of designs for these little tags, and they have ones that are both like the tag can go from the bottom, or if you wanted a tag to kind of go from the top, this one obviously needed to go on the bottom. But then on the back it also has their name, and you can see the reverse stockinette on the inside. So this is really nice because it's kind of holding that hat in that perfect spot for Shane, and the little yarn dragon is really, really cute. Shane also got a little pencil pouch with this little dragon on it from also Kaleidoscope Fibers, so that's really fun. But yeah, that's basically what I have to say about this hat. Another Oslo hat. Shane's been wearing it a lot. I told him that I was going to need to steal it back for the podcast, and he's currently at the grocery store, and he's probably a little upset that he can't wear his hat because he's been wearing it nonstop. But after this, he can have it completely. But I love an Oslo hat. I mostly worked on this during like meetings at work because it's just stockinette in the round. You can really fly by. I love working on these. I'm probably going to start another one here soon because I don't have a ton of plain stockinette on my needles. I'm kind of going back and forth between Oslo hats and socks. But yeah, I think these are a really great gift. They're really fun to knit up. 90 grams of DK. I was worried that I was going to like run out of yarn, so shortening the brim did really help with that. I think even doing a slightly longer brim I probably would have been okay because I would have shortened this a little, but I think with a 10 gram like leeway left over I would have been okay. But yeah, that's the first finished object, my Oslo hat for Shane. So my next finished object is another hat pattern, and this was a test knit that I did for Hookah Canyon Kim over the last month. And so this is the On Piste hat which again is a pattern that I tested for Kim. It is a cabled hat pattern that comes in sizes from baby to adult, and I was so happy to test this and work on it this past month. So here's what my finished hat looks like. Da da da! So this is a fingering weight pattern where you hold the yarn double. So it uses a sock set of yarn. I used Les Garçons BFL sock. It was a sock set, so this was a brown mini skein, and then the blue was the mysterious bat. I technically didn't get this with the club. They had extras of this colorway, so they paired a mini with that club originally. But the hat is knit with this twisted 1x1 rib at the bottom, and then you have these cable repeats going up, and then they flow seamlessly into the decreases here, and then there's an optional pom-pom at the top. You also do a provisional tubular cast on, something I had not done before. I did it for the first time in this pattern, and I think it makes a really nice seamless effect. I would do this again. I think that tubular cast on was not super fiddly. It made a lot of sense in my brain and it worked out really well. Then you switch to your main color before you transition into the cables. And so the cable patterns, you have the chart A, which you repeat a couple times around before transitioning into the next chart, which is chart B, and then it seamlessly transitions into the cable decreases. I used 83 grams of my main color. I knit the adult size, and then I used 16 grams of my mini. And all of my yardages are including the pom-pom that I made. I made this with the Clover pom-pom maker. It was the green one. It was 65 is what's on the little Clover pom-pom maker. I got those in a D-stash, so I'm not exactly sure, like, they have other names or something like that. But I made the little pom-pom with my extras. I did a 2-color one because I love it so much. And my project page lists how much I used for the pom-pom. So I used 9 grams of the main color for the pom-pom and 6 grams for the contrast color of a pom-pom. So it was a 15-gram pom-pom. And then for the hat, it was 75 grams of the main color and 10 grams of the contrast. For the pom-pom, to try to keep it a little perkier up here, I did keep the tails nice and long, and then I threaded it through a button. So the button just kind of helps give that pom-pom something sturdy to sit on. I think that's working a lot better. Before I had the button, it was kind of just like flopping down all the time. But I'll show you what it looks like on. I also have some finished object photos coming. They'll probably be on my Instagram, probably before this even post. So I'm having that a little bit slouchy. If I want to have it down a little bit more, I can. I think the color's really sweet. And Kim is doing an amazing promotion with this pattern. She released it today, Saturday the 9th, and it is going to be $1 through next Saturday, which would be the 16th. So she's just kind of doing an amazing deal on this, considering kind of how hard the past week has been with the election. So this is an amazing deal. Also, Kim has a corresponding sock pattern called the On Piste socks, and if you buy the hat you can get the socks for 50% off, and it features the same sort of cable textures throughout, and it's amazing. So please check those out. I had a blast testing this. I ended up running into some issues because at first I thought it was repeat the charts AAB around the hat, not knit AAB corresponding. So I did knit the hat, rip it back, and then knit it again. And I will say, knitting chart AAB around, it flies. It's such a quick knit. When I did it the first time as changing them around, I had to do a lot more tracking. I was tracking 2 different charts. That was a little more tedious, but I was doing it wrong. So I feel like the charts are really easy to learn and do. Most of it's 1/1 cables. There are some 3-stitch cables, and for those I did end up learning how to do them without a cable needle, but for the first couple times I did do it with a cable needle to kind of figure them out. I wouldn't necessarily say do this as your first cable pattern, but if you've done cables before and if you like twisted stitches, I think it's a really good pattern to dive into. And honestly, holding the fingering weight double, it's a great way to use up a sock set because this pop of color is so cute. So yes, this is my on Piste hat. Pattern is out today. Check it out. It's only $1 through the next week. And thank you, Kim, for letting me test this. As always, I love testing for Kim. So yes, that is my second hat. So my next finished object I am so excited about. This is my Eastwind Jacket by Emily Foden. It is in the book Knits About Winter by Pom Pom Publishing, and I'm so excited that this is done. So I have acquired a new little fixture here. This is my new bust. She doesn't have a name yet. I keep wanting to like call her Gertrude, but I feel like that's just like not her vibe. So she's taking applications and suggestions for what her name should be, but I was able to pick this up because Fancy Tiger Crafts has recently decided to not continue business any longer, and so my friend and I went to the store and I was able to snag this bust for a really good deal, like $40 some, because they were getting rid of all their fixtures. And I'm really excited to have this now to show you things like this in like a much better way for you to see them. I'm still kind of like figuring out the best way to like display her because she has a stand, but it's too tall for me to sit on the ground. I like sitting on the ground because when I sit in my chair, it makes a lot of squeaky sounds. So we're winging it. We're seeing how it goes today. But this is my Eastwind jacket. I have finished it and I am so excited. So this is a pattern, like I said, by Emily Foden in the Knits About Winter book. I knit the size 2 and ended up having a like 58-inch size with my gauge. My gauge was a little bit different than the pattern. It is a drop shoulder construction. It's actually a really crazy construction. So you knit the front pieces and then cast on for the sleeves down to the cuff, and then you continue knitting up and then bind off your shoulder here. It has this really pretty cable down the front next to the button bands. The fronts have pockets that you bind off for and then pick up and seam the pockets on the inside here. You seam them down in your contrasting color. And then once you do your 2 front pieces, you have 2 back pieces that do the same, and then seam it all together, pick up for the button bands, and then add the buttons and the toggles. So let me move you a little bit closer. I feel very small on the ground. So here's that cable texture. I think it's really pretty. It was really fun to do. You also have a 1/1 cable texture on the front of the cardigan of the jacket to like really show it off. And then honestly the most fiddly part was doing these button loops. So these are afterthought button loops. So what you do is you like end up going in and down to like make the length of buttonhole that you want, and then you do like a blanket stitch to like secure the button loop all the way around. It was really fiddly because you're like not super secure with the button loop at the beginning, so like you can like stretch it. And so then they ended up being too big. So I did a lot of these buttonholes a couple of times. Also, you're supposed to make the buttonholes before you attach the buttons, but that was really confusing for my brain. So I went and put these toggle buttons on first, so then that way I could determine how long each of these button loops should be, and that worked out pretty well. I did do 6 buttons. I think the pattern calls for 5. And then you have, kind of just talking all over the place with this. I've been working on this since January of this year. So I have a lot of like details. It's been in a lot of episodes. But let me show you the back. So you also knit the back in pieces. And when I did the backs, I did them 2 at a time so that I could make sure they ended up being the same size, and that worked out really well. And then they have that same cable going down, and then you do an exposed seam to seam up the back. So I think that's really pretty. The seaming did take me a little bit because since you do the mattresses from the wrong side, in order to show this, when I first started it, it didn't look pretty. So I had to rip it out, start it over, and then I think I figured out the steaming a little bit. I think it's got a nice look to it. And I think on the back you can see a little bit more that there's like a body texture. It's very subtle, but I think it's really pretty. I knit this in West Yorkshire Spinners Jacob's DK, held with the Rowan Kid Silk Haze, and I mean, it was a beast. It used a lot of yarn, but it is so comfy. So let me turn it back around. This is difficult because I feel like I'm looking at it, but I'm also supposed to be looking at you. We're learning how to do this. But yeah, I'm super excited about it. It is extremely drop-shouldered. It's very oversized. It is very warm. I love it so much. Overall, I used 6.2 skeins of the kid silk, which is the mohair, or 155 grams. And then for the West Yorkshire Spinners DK, I used 6.28 skeins, or 628 grams of the main color. And then for this contrast color, you only use it in the pockets and at the cast on and bind off at the collar. And so I only used 34 grams for that. I'm gonna pop her down so she's a little shorter. It is a little broken here. But this is kind of what the collar looks like. The collar is the only thing that I'm not super in love with because it's just really wide and not super tall. But I think it's going to be okay considering this is a jacket. It's always going to be over something. And I have plans to remedy what I'm going to do. Because what I think I'm going to do is, because I have some leftover of this main color in Kid Silk Haze, so I think I'm going to make a separate hood in the same color so that if I wear this, I can have the hood and it will kind of go underneath this, and then it won't matter that it's so wide. But this is kind of what it looks like. I'm so excited about this. It's just a jacket, and with our 8 inches of snow today, I'm very excited to have this done. My Eastwind jacket, which I was knitting on for a good 10 months, is done. You'll have to let me know if you have any questions about this or anything else. I feel like because I've been talking about it for so long, I might have skipped some details here today. But, I mean, it was a labor of love, but something I really wanted in the end, so I'm so excited to have this off my needles. I really powered through to get this done last month so that I have it for this winter. So Gertrude here, other names coming, did a quick costume change to show off our next finished object. So this is a traveler hoodie by Andrea Mowry that I have knit for my husband Shane. I've been working on this for quite a while as well. He was getting quite antsy here at the end. I started this in in August, and finished it at the beginning of November. Just after November, so it's going to my November stash totals. But it is done. So this is a traveler hoodie, as I mentioned, by Andrea Mowry. I did do the hood. You can kind of see it. I did a little better this time. Maybe let's make it a little taller. There we go. Now we can see Gertrude a bit better, huh? So I had knit this for myself as well. Same yarn. I had knit it in Wool of the Andes Sport Weight. Shane picked out the color. This is the colorway. This is the colorway Solstice Heather. It's like a blue with a purple undertone. And I knit the same size that I knit myself, which was the size 5, because he had tried my hoodie on and it fit pretty well. So the main modifications that I made is I ended up just lengthening the body up until this sleeve divide. So this is knit from the bottom up. I did do a little bit of a longer ribbing. It was about 2.5 inches, maybe 3. Then I mostly just lengthened the body in order to fit his height. I think it ended up being like 12-ish inches for the body. Let me see. It was 12 inches pre-blocking, so about 14 inches post-blocking. And then initially, I had lengthened the sleeves. However, I knit these, knit the front, knit the back. You bind off at the shoulders before you go back to knit the sleeves. So at that point, I blocked it because the stitch pattern really lengthens. And so I blocked it, let it dry, let Shane try it on, and it was like a tunic. It was like below his butt. It was so long. And the arm seams were so long. So I think something with maybe my initial measurements were off. Maybe I should have done slightly less length in the arms, or maybe it just grew a little bit more because his was a little bit longer. Long story short, what I ended up doing is I ended up undoing the shoulder shaping on both the front and the back. I ripped back 3 inches of knitting from both the fronts and the back. And then at that point, the sleeve was like the normal length that's written in the pattern. And then I redid the short row shaping at the shoulders and then bound them off. So the shoulder is the normal length. I think it's like 8 or 9 inches tall. So an 18-inch roughly circumference for the sleeve. And that like took up everything. Because essentially what I did is I had Shane try it on. He like pointed like, I want it this much shorter. So I measured, that was 3 inches. And so because the shoulder seams were too much, I figured I'd take it back from the arms first, see if that corrected. If I needed to, I then could have, you know, done some surgery with the ribbing, but ended up having enough length taken out when I redid those sleeves. So that worked well. Then I went through, picked up the sleeves. I did do the recommended amount of decreases, and then I did do a little bit of a rapid decrease here at the cuff because I picked up a few extra stitches for the sleeve just to make it fit around. Yeah, that was pretty much exactly. And then for the hood, followed that exactly as written in the pattern. And then for the contrasting color, I went stash diving. I pulled out my DK sport weight scraps, showed them all to Shane. He literally was like, I don't know what color looks good. So this was my favorite color. I picked that. I think it looks really cute. It's leftover Brooklyn Tweed Arbor in the colorway Burnished. And I used my Cordsmith I-cord maker to make this. And initially what I did is I did it really, really long, had Shane try it on, and then we kind of ripped back to make it fit a little bit longer, like to fit the depth of I-cord that we wanted, because I just didn't sew in the end, and then I could just rip back, sew through those I-cord ends. I do think the drawstrings are a little shorter than I like, but Shane doesn't seem to care. Yeah, he's basically been wearing this nonstop since I finished, so at least now I'll be able to take its Montrealer and get a good wash into it, because that's basically been worn nonstop for 2 years, and it could use some TLC. It's got some mending that I need to do, so Shane also did not want to give this up for the podcast. But I think Gertrude looks really cute in it. I love it. I love the colors. I think it worked out really well. I love the little pop of brown here. I think that's so cute. I love this whole picture. I think it's so cute. I love the hoodie. I wear my Traveler all the time, and so Shane wanted one. There's so much cat hair on it. That's what I keep noticing. The stitch pattern is just so fun to knit. It's just a knit and purl texture. And yeah, I could definitely see myself knitting another one of these. I want one of the Travelers, but as a crew neck, and that will save a lot of yarn. But those are the main modifications. Just a little bit longer ribbing at the bottom and a little bit longer body. otherwise there's no waist shaping or anything in Andrea's pattern to begin with, so it ends up working out. Yeah, that's mostly it. Shane is home from the grocery store, so I'm gonna go help with that, and I'll be back when Sherlock is done. Shane is not home. Sherlock just decided to probably bark at a neighbor, but what else is a dog to do? So let me wrap up with this traveler hoodie, just telling you the yardages used. So I used 14.6 skeins of the wool of the Andes Sport in the colorway Solstice Heather. They are 50-gram skeins, so you do kind of have to buy a lot of them to like get through them. But it was 730 grams total, which I feel like for a hoodie is pretty good considering it's a little longer than what I would knit for myself. And then it was 1,996 yards. Wow. For the I-cord, I used 9 grams of my DK Arbor in the colorway Burnished. So that is the traveler hoodie. Shane will be happy to have this back to go, wear it. Alright, so we'll just leave Gertrude here for a second because I think this just looks really cute, and hopefully this will make a nice thumbnail. But I have one more finished object to show you. But now Shane is home, so we will be right back. Alrighty, groceries are put away. We're back. We're here. So for my last finished object, I finished a pair of socks. So I joined the Woolens and Nosh self-striping monthly club, and this was the September colorway that I knit. I love them. I feel like they're very fall. They are very like rainbow. I didn't realize they're going to be in like rainbow order, but I think they are so adorable. So it came with a mini skein. I did 15 rounds of 2x2 ribbing. I did one whole color repeat for the leg, switched into a shadow wrap heel, and it's the same color as the stripe, and then just knit it to fit my leg. I did these on 56 stitches, US 0. These are for my foot. I used 57 grams total. And yeah, that's basically what I have for these. I started these to have some knitting during a staff meeting and then just kept knitting on them during different meetings. Kind of became my replacement for the Oslo. I think the colors are so nice. The Woolens and Nosh base, and we'll do like a semi-transition because I've started another pair of socks with the leftovers from this yarn. So this is the label. And so this base, it's a superwash Targhee, and it's so nice. I have learned that I like a little hardier socks, and so the Targhee is definitely that. It's a little thicker. It's more reminiscent of like a Regia sock yarn versus like a superwash merino. So this was the September 24 colorway, and the colorway name is Free to a Good Home, One Friendly Rooster. It's 90% superwash Targhee, 10% nylon. I love it so much. So, like I said, 57 grams for socks for myself, and that's just the main color. I didn't exactly weigh the contrast. Did I weigh the contrast? Let's look. If I did not have Ravelry, I would never remember all these details. Yeah, I think that's including my mini skein. So 57 grams total. So those are those socks. And with the leftovers, when I started those, I had planned, like, I really want to get the most bang out of my buck. Is that the phrase? I just wanted to knit more of this color, and Shane needs more socks. So basically what I did with the leftovers is I started another pair of socks for Shane. And so I took the leftovers, I split it into 2 equal cakes. I think it was like 26 grams total, and I started these toe up socks. So I did these toe up. I think I cast on 10 stitches per needle, increased to 30 per needle because I do a 60 stitch sock for Shane, and I've just started these toe up. And this has been my meeting knitting since finishing those other socks. And I am doing these concurrently. So I've started the toe on the second sock. I start the toe magic loop, as you can see, and I'm transitioning to the 9-inch circulars once I am done. So I only have this little bit of the toe started on the second one. And I really don't know how far this is going to get me. So that's why I'm doing them toe up, because then that way I'm basically just going to knit until I run out. So I think what I'm going to do, I also split the mini in half. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the heel in the contrast color. And then we'll see how far I get for the leg. Depending how much is left after I do the heel, I may do the cuff in the contrast color, or maybe I'll do like half the cuff, like a pop of color. We'll see. I'm kind of curious how far I'm going to get. I think I ended up with like 26 to 28 grams of the main color per sock for his toe up. So we'll see how they go. And also, if you can tell, these will not be matching because I'm really trying to maximize the yarn. So that's fun. I just feel like my socks, my feet are not huge. I wear like a US 6.5, 7 in women's. I have pretty narrow feet. I have little hands. So, I mean, I could probably do most socks with like a 50 gram. So when I do socks for myself, I end up with a ton of leftovers. So I'm trying to be a little more conscious of the amount of leftovers that I have in my life. I'm trying to use them a little bit more. So that's that. That was a little transition, little segue, finished object / a work in progress. This is in a Mountain State Stitches bag. It's my Mountain one. I love this bag. I think it's so cute. So that is that. So before we fully transition into works in progress, I want to give you my October stash stats. So I'm just on a mission for the year to use more stash than I bring in. So every month I like to see how many skeins I get out of my stash, and that's full skeins, and then how many grams I get out. And so, yeah, we'll just do a little recap. So for this month, I used, and this is just for October, so the Traveler hoodie, those will be in the November stats because I finished this in November. So it's anything that I finished in October. So that's including my Eastwind, my Oslo hat, and the On Piste hat. The vanilla socks and the hoodie will be in November stats. So for October, I used 17 skeins of yarn, and I used 1,016 grams total. I think that might be one of my largest months of grams used. Let me look really quick. Let's see. It is my biggest month for skeins. In April I had 15, so this is the biggest. But it's not my most grams used. In May I got out 1,172 grams. So like 100 more grams than this month. So that's pretty good. I brought in 4 skeins of yarn for 420 grams. So for month to date, it was a -13 and a -596 grams. So that's grams in versus grams out. Year to date, I'm at -33 skeins, but I'm at a positive 124 grams. So that's still that I technically have more grams in than what I've knit. And that's because I'm not really a scrappy knitter. So I think that's why I'm trying to focus a little more on like using as many grams as I can with some of these more scrappy projects. But 33 skeins out is pretty good. That makes me very happy. Happy to be in a negative for the year. But I think I do need to think about destashing or how I can use more of my scraps to get some of the grams down, because my leftover drawers are getting quite full. But that's all the finished objects for October, and since I last recorded. So let's transition to works in progress. Alrighty, so for the amount of finished objects that I have, I feel like the amount of works in progress I have today is much smaller. I feel like I've kind of transitioned a little more into being a little more monogamous. I'm really like working on one project at a time. And like when I start, I'm really like focusing on it for a few days before switching to something else. But I have some exciting projects to show you. You saw the one, my vanilla socks. It's kind of just my meeting knitting. There's no real deadline with those. They're kind of just there, my plain stockinette, because none of my other projects are really like super mindless. I have a lot of texture going on, or at least a little bit of mindfulness happening in my projects. So I think the first thing we'll start with is an update on my Sophie shawl. This I'm knitting for Shane's mom, and I'm knitting it in some colors that we got from Wisconsin Sheep and Wool. I'm almost at the halfway point. So here it is. It did this really cool change in pulling here. I am knitting this with a DK weight instead of a worsted weight like the pattern calls for. So I did go down a needle size, and I'm basically just knitting until I'm about halfway, and then I'll start the decreases. I have about 20 grams left of this 100 gram skein. So when I'm down to about 10 grams of this left, I will start my decreases. But this is it. I think it's really cool. This is fun to work on, and it can be some meeting knitting. I just have to keep track of my increases essentially when it's happening. This is what it looks like total. I think it's got some nice striping, and then this little bit of interest is really cool. Really, really neat. So this is the colorway. It's from Bumblebee Acres. It's in their squishy DK base, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon DK. The colorway is Mrs. Weasley's Knits. So yeah, there's not a ton to say about this. It's just a really nice mindless. It's all garter. I'm really just loving watching the colors change. And soon we'll start decreasing, and then that will be fun. I don't know. The Sophie Shawl is just a good thing to have on the needles. It can be like socks. It can be pretty mindless. It's just keeping track of my increases that I have to do. So I just have a little row counter. And then on the rounds where I need to increase, it just sends me a little reminder. But I mean, I think like when it's bunched up, it's like really cool colors. So, ta-da! Sophie Shawl. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just going. It's going to be a nice background project. Doesn't take a lot of focus. And it's in this sheep bag from Tanny Casey. So this is a lovely bag. It's got like this canvas bottom. Really lovely. And I love that it has pockets inside. So that's like my most simple projects. So then we'll move into the things that definitely require a little more thought and patterns. So I'm going to start first is I have another test knit. Well, actually both of these are test knits, but this one is a test knit for Samantha Guerin, and this is her grid Gambit. It is a bandana KAL. So I've done a bandana KAL for Andrea Mallory. I've done the, is it the Inclinations? It's whatever the fisherman rib one was. But I saw this on like Samantha's Instagram, and I wanted to do it so bad. And then I missed the deadline, and then I was chatting with her, and then she let me still test it. So thank you so much. I'm so excited. I've just started it, and I really want to like spend some time on this weekend. I'm still in the very first section, but let me show you first my beginning colors. So as I mentioned, it's the Grid Gambit Bandana KAL by Samantha Guerin. I am using Stress Knits DK in the colorway Mountain Mama. And then this is some of my hand spun. So this was an Into the World color. I have my little tag that I make. It was the May 2024 colorway, and it was Auto Magically. I spun this as a fractal. I have a 3-ply. It's roughly like a fingering to sport to DK, somewhere in there. It's 101 grams, 222 yards, and 100% Targhee. I love this color so much. And so the Mountain Mama, this is the Stress Knits label. It's a DK 100% superwash merino, 250 yards. So this is what they look like together. They have some nice contrast. I had another combo I was debating between, but both of those I had 2 skeins essentially of each, and this pattern only needs 1 skein of each. So I'm saving that for a future project since this is a smaller project, and this is where I'm at. Isn't it so cool? So you alternate rounds between the main color and the contrast color, and then you do these like slip stitches to make these like little squares of your main color. And then my contrast color is changing. I think it's so cool. I did go down a needle size because I am a pretty loose knitter, and since it's a KAL, I know I'll be a little more, I'd rather have a little bit tighter and not run out of yarn. Plus I'm like really close to gauge. So I'm using a US 5, having gone down a needle size, and I think it's so cool to see these color changes happening. So I'm still in the first section. I'm almost done with the first section, and then I will like be only increasing on one side. Right now I'm increasing on both. I'm really excited about this. I love my bandana KAL that I have from Andrea. I love that I'm able to use some of my hand spun because I'm trying to use it a little bit more in my projects. And I love like the olive green as the base. I think it's really cool. And then the pops of my blue on this, I think it looks so good. So I am just at the mere beginnings of this, but it's really fun to work on. It does take a little bit of mindfulness in the sense of like the slip stitches and when I'm doing the increases, but the pattern has been lovely to follow. Samantha provides both written instructions and charted instructions. For this so far, I'm really enjoying the written instructions. Maybe once I get the other repeats going, when it's not increasing every round, I might be able to switch to like the chart, but I like having that as an option. And since it's superwash, I also think the background color might grow a little bit. It's really cool that there's like a really low contrast section here, and then we moved back to like a higher contrast, and I think it's just gonna match my wardrobe really well. I'm loving the colors. I'm so excited. So this is my mere beginnings of my grid Gambit. I did join the test a little bit late. As I mentioned, I missed the initial sign up, and then me and Samantha were chatting and she added me in, which I really appreciate, but this will have to be done basically by Thanksgiving. That's kind of like near the end of the month is when I got to get this done, so I have some knitting to do, but that's okay. And so now we have one more test knit to show you. I'm gonna pop this on some stitch savers real quick, so while I'm doing that we can chat about what I'm working on. So this is the Staffin Cardigan, which is a pattern I am testing for the Rebecca Clow. I've applied to test for her a few times but haven't gotten in, and this was my first time being accepted, so that is really exciting. It is like a Gansey, is that the word? A Gansey style pattern. It's like an all over knit purl texture patterns. It's been really fun so far. I am knitting, this pattern will have lots of different options. It has cardigan, sweater, and a vest. With those also there's the options of V-necks and crew necks. I think those are the main options. There's also going to be a shawl version of this, but that's kind of a different iteration of the pattern. And so I am knitting the round neck cardigan. I am doing the size 5, which is going to be like a 47 1/4, maybe 47 1/2 inch bust. I normally go for like a 48 inch. That's kind of what I've decided is like my sweet spot for patterns. I am using a US 8 and US 9 needle for the main body, and I'm still working on the raglan increases. So right now it's really bunched up on my needle, so that's what I'm spreading out. Alright, and I think we'll be okay now. We may pull Gertrude back to show this. So let me show you my swatch. So this is my swatch. This is the colorway I'm doing. So this pattern has ribbing sections and then this faux little bobble and then a diamond knit pearl texture. I started testing with a US 8 and then I went down to a US 7, blocked the swatch with my gauge. Technically this was too tight in the like bobble and diamond section, but the ribbing you can kind of block to kind of hit that gauge. It's a 16 stitch over 4 inches gauge, and so there are a couple things I learned from my swatch. My ribbing versus the plain, I'm doing my ribbing a size down from this other texture section. So what I ended up doing, this was a US 7 and 8, but it was still too many stitches in the texture, so I just went up to a US 9 because I was very close. And since it's an open cardigan, if I'm slightly off, I think we're going to be okay. So I moved up to a US 9 for the faux baubles and the diamonds, and then for my ribbing, I could stretch the US 8 to hit that 16 stitches. And I think that's just gonna, basically the main section is kind of going to determine how much this ribbing gets stretched in the end, because obviously the ribbing, when I'm knitting it plain, it's like really sucked in. So it has to be pinned when blocked. So the fact that that has to get pinned out does not concern me. But this is where I'm at. What does it look like? So I can probably just, here, let me take out this cardigan. I'm gonna leave this cardigan. So you can see here, so we started with the 2x2 section. I have done also one faux bobble section, then the diamond, and I've just finished another faux bobble here. This is kind of where it's at. I'm almost at the end of the raglans. I have some more increases to do before I finish. Essentially, I need to get about halfway through another ribbing section before I'll split for the sleeves. But I think this color looks really nice. I am using Lion Brand's Fisherman's Wool. This is the colorway Oatmeal. Color 123 Oatmeal. It is, these come in 227 grams, 465 yards each. It's 100% wool. It's a worsted weight. I think it blooms really well because looking at this, it's a little scriggly. It's a little iffy on how it's feeling. My stitches feel like they're a little all over the place. You know, they're not necessarily, they don't know exactly what they're doing, but I think it blocks beautifully. Like this texture looks amazing. And in here it's still a little like, it's like, what are we doing? I don't know exactly what I am. Like it's a little more open. And I did go up a needle size, but I think this yarn blooms a lot. Like that's kind of how I felt knitting this initially too. I was like, oh, I don't really know. It's not really, you know, it looks a little scruffy. And then you block it, and I think it gets a little happier. So that's kind of where we're at. I am in that weird limbo point where, you know, there's a lot of stitches because we have the fronts, and we have the sleeves, and we have the back on the needles. We have a lot going on. Also with the raglan increases. So I have markers right now to notate. We have the front, we have the sleeve, we have the back, we have the sleeve, and we have an other front. But also within these, we are also increasing on each side. And so with the ribbing, it's really easy to read, but then we also are adding stitches on each side of the diamonds every time. So I have markers to notate the different sections, and then separate markers to notate the beginning of the pattern repeat. So it is it's a lot to keep track of right now. But I think once I'm past the raglans and I'm joined in the body, it's going to be smooth sailing. It's going to be really easy to read. Right now it's not too difficult. It's actually like a really nice little focus for my brain. Something that I like have to pour my focus into. And it's been really nice. It's been fun to work on. It grows really quickly considering it's at such a large gauge. I really like this color. I think it looks really nice. This yarn smells very sheepy. I like it a lot. It's also just very budget. If you remember, I had started probably a year ago a cardigan in this yarn. Ended up ripping it out because it was like a brioche fisherman's rib kind of cardigan, and which is not growing, was not my jam. But I really like this. I'm kind of in a cardigan season this winter, I think. This fall and winter, I just want to knit some more cardigans. So I'm really liking it. It has a really pretty raglan detail where it's just like a knit purl kind of going down completely. The texture is really fun. The test is kind of a beast. There are quite a few of us in this Instagram chat. I struggle kind of keeping up with those kind of chats, so I have it muted, honestly. I kind of check when I have a moment. Otherwise, I feel like my phone is pinging all day long, which is just too much for my little brain. But the pattern's in a Google Doc, so everyone's comments can all kind of be there, can be shared. The main thing that I think is being worked out right now is when you start your raglan increases, you have to start on a certain stitch so that after your raglan increases, when you join in the round and you have your front and your back, obviously once the sleeve is not there, you want that to be a nice continuous stitch. Like, we don't want our diamonds to be messed up. So that's caused a little bit of like reworking, but I was able to figure out where to start. I think that's something that will be worked out once the pattern is released, but that's probably been the biggest like hiccup, is just making sure people know which stitch to start on when they start their raglan increases, so then that way once you are joining in the round, everything's nice and lined up. But I did the math for mine. I was able to figure it out, have left some feedback, and I know it's gone back to tech editing to like make sure that that's figured out. But I think it looks so nice. I think it's like a classic, but I think with the color, it's going to pair really nicely in my wardrobe. I think the ribbing and just like the little bit of texture is just going to look really nice. I'm really excited to be a part of this test, and I think it's just going to be a really nice addition to my wardrobe. Plus, I'm excited because like I mentioned, had started knitting a cardigan I think it was last fall, and I had already picked out buttons to go with it. And then once I ripped it out, like, I obviously still have the buttons, I still have the yarn. So I'm excited that I've kind of done another cardigan and I'll be able to use the buttons, because this is knit flat and then I'll go back and add the button band, and it actually does have buttons. So I'm excited for that. I think it'll be nice. And that's where I'm also like not super concerned if like the 47.5 is like slightly too small. I can just do a little bit longer on my like ribbing fronts and it will fit to get me to that 48, which is like my happy medium. But with that, I mean, those are all my current works in progress. I basically have that test knit for the grid Gambit, which I'm hoping to like really sink my teeth into this weekend. I have my Staffin Cardigan, which has been a really fun, like something to dive my teeth into. I'd like to get that past the raglans this weekend if I can, because then I think it's going to be really smooth sailing. And then otherwise I just have some mindless projects with vanilla socks and my Sophie Shawl, which I'll probably work on while editing this. They're just really good projects to kind of have in the background for when I need to keep my hands busy doing something else. But those are all my works in progress and finished objects. But I do have a few acquisitions that, if you'd like to stick around and see those, I'd love to share with you. So that's what we'll move into next. There's not a ton, just a few things I'm excited about. So I just have a few acquisitions that I'd like to show you. I feel like I don't show them always. Sometimes I feel weird showing acquisitions, but I think some people like them, so I'm just going to share them. So the first things I got is I got a few skeins from Needles at the Ready. They had mentioned in a previous episode that they're doing like a crazy for Brioche KAL. It's like, I don't exactly remember the name, but I'll have it linked down below because editing, Kristen has a little more time to look into things like that. But it's a 2-color, 2-skein brioche shawl. It looks like a really nice, simple shawl. Not too much brioche, sections of brioche, and then sections of garter or other plain knitting. And Kevin and Ray had shown this Winter Forest colorway on a podcast, and I was like, I have to have that. So it's 85% superwash merino, 15% nylon. It's their Athena sock base. It's so gorgeous. I'm realizing I really like blues. Blues and oranges and greens are like this will go so nice with this. And so then I had messaged the Needles at the Ready account. I was like, I want this Winter Forest and I want to pair it with a solid. So can you send me some options? And they did, and they were lovely, and there were so many ones. It was like, do I like pair it with like an orange or a yellow to really pull this out, or do I pull it more with like a teal? What I ended up going for was the Shady Pines. So this is on the Dementor fingering, which is 100% superwash merino. So this one has a little bit of nylon in it. This one is just merino, but I think they're going to pair so nicely together. So I'm going to participate in the KAL. These are the colors I'm going to do. I'm very excited. It'll probably be once I finish my grid Gambit, I'll probably start working on this. I don't want to cast on too many things at a time right now. I really need to get that bandana KAL done for the test, but then I think this will be what's up next. I'm very excited about these. So that was one acquisition. Another acquisition is I've been participating in the Desavista Dye Works. She does a contest every month for the like new colorways, and so I got picked for a colorway. This is on her Viso base. It's the colorway Everyone in This Room. So for this year, she's kind of doing previous year's inspiration. So every month I've been like submitting books that have been released from those years. So this is the book called Everyone in This Room Will Soon Be Dead. I haven't read it yet. It's on my to be read book. It's supposed to like really look at like and be like a really good representation of like how anxiety feels, which is something I have. And so I think the colors are really cool. It's a really cool book cover. I'll try to post it up here too so you can see kind of the inspiration. But I got this for free for participating in that contest. And then I got my new Woolens and Nosh self-striping color. And so this is also on the Superwash Targi. This is the October colorway, and it's called Fall Cozy Kit. Tea, books, candles, flannel, and wool socks. And this colorway she's posted, I'll post a picture here as well. Not all the colors like are equal, like stripe length, and I love how it looks so much. At first I was a little hesitant with the pink, but I think with how the colors kind of go out, I'm excited to cast this one on too. So those were my yarn acquisitions for the month. These are the 420 grams total. But then I have a few clubs that I've gotten. So I've received my Into the World October 2024 colorway. I'm so excited for this. So this was delayed slightly within the month because they were at Rhinebeck and they like let us know and everything, so that's totally fine. And I have so much fiber, so it doesn't matter. But this is the Crown of Jack McLantern. It's on the gray Corriedale base. Look at this. It's so gorgeous. So it's like orange and yellow and gray, and it's got like this really heathered tone underneath. I have loved every color I've gotten from Into the World. They're all just so moody and earthy, and I think compared to, I was getting Nest and I also really loved those colors, but they just weren't as much my vibe, versus Into the World is really dark and moody, which I really like, and Nest is like really bright and vibrant. So that's what I would say for those two clubs. You know, like, find someone that really speaks to your colors. I love these. I'm probably going to end up doing a combo spin of different colors from Into the World because I've gotten a few months recently that I think would pair really well together. But part of me thinks that maybe I'll just spin this by itself. It's so pretty, the gray Corriedale. So that is that. And then I do have my Cozy Blue Club, which came. So this is an embroidery club. Every month she sends a pre-printed pattern and like the thread to go with it. And the pattern for this month is so stinking cute. So it's the stork with like a needle and then a background coat of like flowers and vines. Isn't this so cute? So I'm probably gonna start working on this soon. I haven't had an embroidery project in a little while. I do get this every month, and I need to catch up. I have many cute patterns that I need to work on, but this one is like, I want to start this as soon as possible. So it just comes in this little package. It comes folded, and then she doesn't give you stitching instructions, but she does work on it throughout the month and like provides what she's gonna do. And so these are the color threads we were given this month. It comes separated and like the DMC colors as well. Oh, I'm excited. This is gonna be gorgeous. So I think this is gonna get started very, very soon. And then I just have one small order. I did replace an order with Tuft Woolens because I'm almost out of my current wool wash soap. Unfortunately, the flavor that I really like is 5th and 57th, but they were out of the wool wash, but I did get it in a lanolin balm. So this is the same as their twist up balms, but you get a little bit more in this little tin. Also, there's no plastic in the tin and you can reuse the tin after. So I got that because I love this smell, and I figured if I was placing an order, I might as well grab some of these. So I did pick up a bar of Mountain Lodge, which this one has notes of, doesn't say exactly. On the website she gives notes, but it smells like a forest. I like more earthy smells, less flowery. So this one's really nice. And then they had some like sample ones. These were like pretty cheap because they do like test of smells to see what they like. And so this was like a half soap, and it is sandalwood and patchouli. So grab that because it was on sale. Figured I'm already paying for shipping, might as well stock up a little bit on some wool wash. And I think the Tuft Woolens just like really gets into your fibers, and they just like leave such a nice scent overall. So just did a quick pickup of those. 5th and 57th is still my favorite flavor. I know scents aren't flavors, but that's like the word I think of. It's my favorite scent. So I'll probably just keep looking out because, well, I mean, my Tuft Woolens bar has lasted 4 years. It lasts so long, and I like really lather up my knits and like soak them in. So I really don't need to like buy another bar. I'll think about it. So if anyone sees the 5th and 57th scent in a bar, I do really like it. It's probably my favorite. Highly recommend it. It's just like earthy and I don't know. It just smells really good. But yeah, that's basically everything I had to chat with you today. Thanks for hanging out with me. I have no idea how long this episode will be because it's been cut so many times. Sorry it was a little chaotic. I feel like I was up and down and stopped recording so many times. So thanks for hanging out with me. I hope your November is treating you as well as it can be. I hope this was a little bit of a nice relaxing time to hang out. Thank you for hanging out with me, and just I hope I was able to, you know, provide a little bit of inspiration and just a little update on all my knitting. So thank you so much for being here. You are my people for hanging out with me in this little corner today. Make sure you like and subscribe if you'd like to know when I post future videos and for us to help find some other knitters and fiber makers out there. I hope you've put a little bit of love in every stitch of your making today, and I'll see you guys again very soon. Have a great day.